Hi, and welcome to the Saved, Healed, and Made Whole podcast, where holistic health really can be simple, affordable, and attainable for you and your family. I am your host, Kayla J. Esteban. I am a biblical naturopathic doctor at Sozo Holistic Healing, where I work with natural-minded moms to find healing in mind, body, and spirit. So go grab your favorite cup of herbal tea, take a deep, relaxing breath, and we'll get started. So, I wanted to talk about anxiety today, and this is mostly because it is one of the most common mental health conditions. It's estimated that 30% of the people in the US have it. So, I can only assume that people who are listening, maybe let's say 30% of them have it. And so, I think it's something that's very useful and helpful to be talking about. And anxiety can be a challenge for anyone, but for moms, there is the added component of how it affects our relationship with our children and how we parent. And as in my experience, at least with parenting, child antics can be incredibly anxiety inducing, even if you are the most well balanced, chilled out, mellow mom on the planet. For some people, it's postpartum anxiety with a new baby, especially your first baby, when you just kind of have no idea what you're doing most of the time. Or, when your kids are getting to be like 5, 6, 7 years old and, they try to chase a ball into a street full of cars, or watching your teenager learn to drive for the first time, or dating for the first time, or anything like that. There's plenty of nerve-wracking parenting moments. And I'm pretty sure it never really fully ends, even when kids become adults. At least that's what I've heard from people that I know who have adult children. So, having natural ways to alleviate that anxiety, especially in preventative ways, so we're just not feeling quite so much anxiety to begin with, can be really helpful and can really help with making your days be more at peace and calm, which really just makes everything better, right? And studies have shown that having a parent with anxiety makes children more likely to have their own anxiety, which I know for anyone listening who has anxiety, probably even just hearing that said out loud maybe makes you start to feel anxious about your anxiety and how your anxiety is affecting your child. So that was not my intention at all. And if it is possible to just kind of like put a pin in it for a second, because the good news is that we are not victims that are stuck in this situation, and we're just doomed to be repeating this cycle of anxiety and pass it on to our children. So that's the good news, is that that does not need to happen. So even if that's our current trajectory, it doesn't mean that we can't turn things around. And even if our children are older already, like I could see if your children are getting up till like preteens and teenagers, you might think like, oh, well, I've already just messed them up for life, which is not true at all. And even if you can already see their anxiety coming out, kids are so adaptable. I mean, people just in general are adaptable. If you can change and if you can heal from your anxiety, then they should be just as likely, if not more so, since they are younger and they have more neuroplasticity and all that stuff. And it might even be something that you get to work through and heal together, with you being as the leader. Because when our kids see us regulate our own emotions well and remain calm, it's like a modeling for them for how they can be more peaceful too. And seeing that in you can help to inspire them and set a good example for them. And it can be something that you can keep each other accountable with, or just have some good open conversations about it. As a mom, we are often the thermostat when it comes to our family members' nervous systems. And what I mean by that is like, when you go to the wall and you change the thermostat, you change the whole temperature of the room, right? So when moms are anxious, then a lot of times everybody else is anxious. And when moms are calm, then everybody else is calm, which I know sometimes does not feel fair, even to myself. Sometimes I'm just like, I just want to be able to feel my own feelings without so much responsibility and without having other people be dependent on me being my best self. But it is what it is, and we just work with it. And the more we work on addressing the root causes and practice rewiring our brains for more peace and calm, the easier it really gets. So before I get into some of these root causes that I just mentioned, I also wanted to bring up a side of anxiety that no one talks about. And I believe that way more people actually have anxiety than maybe that 30% statistic is saying. But I think that sometimes it just gets masked by other things. Like for men, it seems like anxiety often gets covered up by anger. But for women, what I see, it gets more often masked by control and manipulation. And I can honestly say that I am not an exception to that. For years, like, if you had asked me if I thought that I had anxiety or not, I would have definitely told you that I did not. And I wasn't me, like, lying or trying to put on a brave face. Like, I honestly didn't think that I had anxiety, and I was like, when people would say that they had anxiety, in my head, I would think, like, "What are these people's problems? Like, why can't they just get it together?" Because and it was a horrible thought to think, but it was because I had such major control issues, and I used my control issues to cover up my feelings of anxiety, and it was only because I maintained such a firm grip of control that I didn't feel the anxiety, and I just kind of like, at the second anything would happen in my life that started to make me feel anxious, I would just, like, jump into problem-solving mode right away and fix the situation, so we would just kind of, like, take a quick little flyover over my anxiety, and so my anxiety would stay suppressed, and it never even really registered on my sensors or my consciousness really that I was feeling anxiety because my control just snapped into attention and took care of everything. The only problem was whenever I couldn't maintain control over whatever that situation was, I just like couldn't handle it and I would just kind of fall apart internally or just, control even harder and just force everything and I would do whatever I really had to do to influence that situation or the people involved so that I could feel in control and avoid anxiety. And it wasn't until about a year and a half ago that I realized just how many times a day I actually do experience anxiety and how my control issues were not exactly fixing anything. It was really just causing its own problems because I didn't realize exactly how much other people don't like to feel controlled or micromanaged, and I was frustrating other people in my life, and I was frustrating my own self with expectations of what I felt ought to be happening or what I thought I needed in order to maintain control and calm. And so I was wasting a lot of my own energy on my anxious thoughts, just spinning around in this hamster wheel in my brain all day long, just fixating on what was going to prevent me from feeling anxiety. And you can imagine how much energy and space is in my brain now since I've been working on that anxiety and control issues. I can't say honestly that they're completely gone, it's still a work in progress, but we've made some good headway. So if you're feeling your own anxiety, or maybe you're just realizing it right now because you've also been covering it up with your own control issues or anger or manipulation or whatever it is, and if you're wondering what you can do about it, I am happy to work with you one on one, either virtually or in person through my Revive consultations. And you can find a link in the show notes to those Revive consultations with all the details and everything. Or you can always contact me by email or set up a discovery call, whichever one you prefer, if you have more questions about just what the sessions entail or whether or not it would be right for you. Or if you're kind of more of a DIY kind of person, or maybe you just want to try like a bit of a sampling of what I do, you can check out my anxiety relief workshop, which is a recorded workshop that goes over some of the most common root causes of anxiety, like nutrient deficiencies, food sensitivities, biochemistry imbalances, things like that. And there are also some health conditions and lifestyle choices that might surprise you with how they can mimic or increase feelings of anxiety. So you might have something going untreated like candida or something like that that is causing you to feel anxiety. And I also give some practical holistic strategies to manage or prevent anxiety, things like breathing techniques or other simple things like essential oils and stuff that you can easily integrate into your day whenever anxiety comes up, not as like a band-aid method, but just some things that you can do while you're addressing those root causes and rewiring your programming to, in your brain and your nervous system to respond more with calm, because there's definitely going to be a bit of a transition process, right, between addressing the root causes while still kind of on the tail end of feeling that anxiety. So you can check out the link to the anxiety relief workshop in the show notes, and it's only $11. So I make it really easily accessible for anyone. And there's a lot of solutions in the workshop that are also free or low cost because I really do my best to offer solutions for people that don't have to break the bank just to have good health, because everybody deserves to have good health, especially you. And for anybody that is going through the day with anxiety and just really affecting their daily quality of life. To me, the fastest, simplest, most budget friendly ways to address that to me is always a win. And even in my one to one consultations of people, if they want a little more of that personal touch, I still do really try to incorporate lower cost solutions, things that are very manageable for that person's schedule or just kind of fit their personal preferences. So I love to work with people that way to kind of accommodate as much as possible. So again, all of those details are in the show notes. There's several options for whatever might work best for you. And thank you very much for listening today and have a very blessed day.